honestly think that being female is one of my biggest strengths. I didn't see that for a really, really long time. Nobody wants to be in a room with all women or all men. It's the difference of opinions and viewpoints that makes life interesting. Here's Dennis and my husband, the dog. Bye, hon. Have a good day. My name's Diane Benck. I'm currently president of Westside Tractor. We have 11 locations, a little over 300 employees, and I'm hoping our revenues will come close to $400 million this year. This is a picture that was taken, 7 or 8 years ago. This is Jen, Lauren, Brian, myself, and then my two brothers, Steve and Tom, who were my partners through most of my career. I grew up in downtown Naperville. We had a great childhood. Back then, when we were in grade school, we'd take off on our bikes in the morning, and, my mom had some general idea of which houses we were at, but we just had a lot of freedom as kids. My older brother, Steve, is a little bit over 4 years older than I am, and we really were raised together. And he was always kind of my protector. Then my brother, Tom, came along when I was 11, and so Steve and I were like, what's going on here? As a middle child, you have to fight maybe a little bit harder for attention, so I was always kind of fighting to figure out where my place was. I was a daddy's little girl. I remember when I was little, I'd ride my bike to the end of the street to wait for him to come home. And those were always the days when he was late. So my mom finally forbid me from driving to the end of the street to wait for him. So I think I've always kind of sought his approval. And I'm sure there's some piece of why I came into the business was all about keeping that close relationship with my dad. So this probably would have been one of the very first tractors that my dad traded in and resold when he got started back in 1962. So we just love the whole story of that. As a teenager, I would have never expected that I would end up in our family business or in the industry. I was really into psychology. I also loved art. Like, my interests were very different than the construction equipment business. I went and pursued psychology. I had a full-time job as a therapist. I was teaching 2 classes part-time, and I was still working in the family business. I finally looked in the mirror and I was like, something has to give here. And what I couldn't give up was the family business. When I decided I wanted to be part of the family business, my dad basically said to me, this is a man's business. I don't know if you belong here.
Our grandfather was always probably the hardest on Diane. I think that he definitely pushed her harder than maybe her 2 brothers.
I don't think I could have made it without Steve. He said, I think there's a place for you here. Whatever you do, you're going to be helpful. My dad always envisioned that Steve would be in the business and that he would kind of take over for him, but I think I was a real wild card. And I don't think he meant badly by that. I just don't think he had the vision to be able to see what women could do in the industry, because there just were none. Is there anything else we need to do for Indianapolis? If we should leave power off, it would just flood.
Diane has certainly been a mentor to many of us within the industry. I think we've all been very inspired by her story over time. I think especially as we've learned more about just what the industry looked like when she came into the business.
When will we actually start? And do we have a good plan with our employees in place?
For the end of the...
I don't know if I would have worked at Westside if I didn't watch Diane doing that my whole life.
Men are promoted based on potential. Women are promoted based on their performance. So for me, even in the family, I would just kind of step up and start doing the job. And once they saw me do it, it's like, okay, we got to give her the title. Look, she's doing the job. She's been doing it for a year. So I think that's why I was a consensus builder, because I didn't always have the authority. I had to build those relationships and get people to just sort of buy into what I was thinking.
She is kind of the consensus builder around here, so she's really good at going out to different departments or different groups and really getting us all on the same page on a lot of different things.
Early in my career, I truly embraced my relationship with other dealers. I got involved in every dealer group you could possibly imagine. I kept building all those relationships. It's so interesting, like you don't know where you're gonna go and why you do certain things. I mean, that was really my survival, was these other dealer relationships. But what's that turned into is then, even on a national basis, I ended up being the first female chair of our Associated Equipment Distributors, which is an organization for all dealers of all types throughout North America. And who knew I'd end up being the first female chair of the organization, so. Our industry has a reputation of old white guys. I'd already been on the board. I was equally qualified, and I was chosen. I almost turned it down, but it turned out to be one of the most rewarding things that I've done. I think you overcome imposter syndrome by addressing your fears. When you tackle something that you're afraid of, that will end up being the most rewarding thing you ever did. So don't run from your fear, understand it, and jump into it.
Well, we met online, and her tagline was "Best catch in the Western suburbs." She's the greatest wife I could ever have, and her family's great. She wrote down my answers. I've said it a million times now.
I have been married now for when I was 17 or 18 years. I think I became a way better leader with my husband in my life. He is my number one fan, and I think he's really supported me a lot. And so I think a healthy relationship makes a huge difference. I never thought about legacy for a really long time. And I think as I get older now, it's all about legacy for me. It's about my family story. My parents were two farm kids with nothing. My dad had nothing. He didn't graduate high school. And they fell in love. Then my dad went into the military. They traveled all over the world, and it completely changed the trajectory of their lives and their vision for the future. To start a construction equipment dealership today, my parents did it with $10,000. Today it would take $10, $20, $50 million to even get involved with anything, and that's not a main product line like John Deere. I kind of look at the family businesses. It's been a gift. It was a gift that we nurtured and grew. The business is 15 times bigger than when my dad kind of turned it over there in the late 80s to us. I think I did my share. It's up to now the next generation to figure out what they want it to be and where it's going to go.
Grandpa looking back, would he have thought he had granddaughters in the business and then a granddaughter that's competing in Skills USA this week is pretty great?
She's going to give her brother a run for the money.
Yeah.
But I think, for our generation, it's those ladies that have really went out of their way to make sure that, we're mentored and that we understand the business and that we're, being partnered with different mentors and opportunities. And I think that's something that Diane takes a lot of enjoyment and pride in is, making sure that the next generation and that women in general also have what they need to be successful in this industry. As we have built new facilities and renovated a lot of facilities, one of the main focuses that we've had is building spaces for women. So historically in our facilities, we had no women locker rooms, we had no safe places for nursing, and now as we've been updating and building our new facilities, that's been something that is just built into all of our new buildings. Actually, when I came back in the business, there had not been anybody that had been pregnant in probably about 25 years at Westside Tractors. So I was kind of the first test of our new maternity policy at that time. And Diane and I sat down and she goes, "How much time would you like to take off work?" And there was the kind of the growth of our leave policy at that point. We have now a formal policy that supports taking that time off. We also, I think, have a lot more flexibility with moms that want to maybe come back part-time to start, transition back into full-time, or maybe we have a few that just want to stay part-time with us.
Jen and Lauren also have young kids right now, and I have a young son. So there's just, for working moms in general, it's a challenge. It's exhausting, and we deal with different things than I think, the typical male employee has to deal with. At Westside Tractor, if I need to leave and handle something for my son or something at home, it's, go ahead and take care of what you have to take care of. Family first, no hesitation.
I currently have a team of 10 ladies under me. We try to have fun when we're at work here with a lot of things, but they know if something happens or something comes up unexpectedly, they're not going to be penalized for that. Go take care of what you need to take care of, come back, it's going to be here, and we'll pick up where you left off.
This is an example of our innovative marketing.
There's a reason Brian is running the sales department and Lauren is running marketing. So
When I think about over the last 10 years, what we were able to accomplish, and really in working with Diane, Jen, and Lauren, was we really changed the cultural path of what our business was and what we cared about, and really explaining the why we're doing it and how we're going to do it.
yeah, so this is actually, I took this picture. One of my favorite parts of my day is when Jen, Lauren, and Brian all wander in and they want to tell me about a problem or ask my opinion about something. So I think really my number one role is to be a mentor in the company and have that voice of experience and longevity that, maybe they don't have at this point in time.
Diane's been a huge part of my mentorship. She's a great sounding board for many of us. She's the one that we kind of go to bounce different ideas on.
Diane is so intelligent. She is also a psychology background, right? So she's great at reading people and asking questions. She has never answered for me. She has always just asked questions and let me take the lead on what I think we should do or where we should land on something.
Diane, Jen, and Lauren empower us as employees to think outside the box, come to the table with solutions. I learned from them along the way that that's how I operate.
Diane is powerful. As a child looking up to Diane, I thought she was incredibly unique and somebody that I very much looked up to for what she did. And when I would come into the office and have an opportunity as younger to be around it, just the respect I felt like that she had when she would walk down the hall, that it was very apparent.
When you just go forward, you're just doing your job. You're focused on the problem at hand, or things aren't right, or I'm not right. And then you take a step back and you look at it. You realize that people are watching you and that you're having an impact. You look at my nieces and nephews involved and other women that I've influenced. It's amazing that just being good at what you do, you become a role model. My name is Diane Benck, and I'm breaking barriers.
Hey, I'm Jennifer Todd of A Greener Tomorrow. And if you support women, empowering them, taking them to the next level, leadership, and all of the things, make sure that you are following us online, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And by the way, make sure you're keeping up with us so you can find out about the latest live events, all of our webinars, and that you can see every episode of Breaking Barriers. We'll see you soon.